हवा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जनावल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी गोपी जनावल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदानंदना जय व्रज जनारंजना जय व्रज जनारंजना यशोदानंद व्रज जनारंजना जय व्रज जनारंजना जमुना तीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी यमुना जमुना तीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनावल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदानंदना जय व्रज जनारंजना जय यशोदानंदना जय व्रज जनारंजना जय यशोदानंदना जय व्रज जनारंजना जय यमुना तीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय यमुना तीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्र शतश्री श्रीमद His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Grantra Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki Kali Yuga Pavan Shri Harinam Sankirtan Mahayagni ki Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. Hare Krishna. We're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 17, entitled The Victory of Hiranyaksh. Over all the directions of the universe. Verse number 27. Tatropalabhya suralokapalakam Yado gananam rishabham prachetasam Smayam pralabdhum pranipatyani chavaj Jagadame dehyadiraja samyugam Tatropalabhya suralokapalakam Yado gananam rishabham prachetasam Smayam pralabdhum pranipatyani chavaj Jagadame dehadir adhiraj samyugam Tatropalabhya suralokapalakam Yado gananam rishabham prachetasam Smayam pralabdhum pranipatyani chavaj Jagadame dehyadhiraja samyugam Tatropalabhya suralokapalakam Smayam pralabdhum pranipatyani chavaj Tatropalakam Yado gananam rishabham prachetasam Smayam pralabdhum pranipatyani chavaj Jagadame dehadraja samyugam Tatropalabhya suralokapalakam Mataji. Tatropalabhya Sulokapalakam. What word? Tatra, there. Upalabhya, having reached. Asura Loka, of the regions where the demons reside. Palakam, the guardian. Yadaha Gananam, of the aquatic creatures. Rishabham, the Lord. Prachetasam, Varuna. Smayan, smiling. Pralabdhum, to make fun. Pranipatya, having bowed down. Nichavat, like a low-born man. Jagada, he said, may, to me. Dehi, give. Adhiraja, O great Lord. Samyugam, battle. Translation: Vibhavari is the home of Varuna, Lord of the aquatic creatures and guardian of the lower regions of the universe, where demons generally reside. There Hiranyaksha fell at Varuna's feet like a low-born man, and to make fun of him, he said with a smile, "Give me battle, O Supreme Lord." Srila Prabhupada's purport: the demoniac person always challenges others and tries to occupy others' property by force. Here these symptoms are fully displayed by Hiranyaksha, who begged war from a person who had no desire to fight. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Before I begin, I would like to seek the blessings of all the assembled devotees. Of course, very interesting to note how Hiranyaksha, it is said, there Hiranyaksha fell at Varuna's feet like a low-born man. Actually, Hiranyaksha has a itching sensation to fight someone. Of course, the cause is, of course, the passion. But that passion, that itching sensation, Hiranyaksha was actually thinking that he is a very great person. He is a great fighter. He is stronger than everyone. Therefore, he is going from person to person, place to place, looking for a fight. But that great person, at the opportune moment, is also ready to act like a low-born man. It is said, see. Hiranyaksha fell at Varuna's feet like a low-born man, just so that he can get his agenda fulfilled. And make fun of him. And to make fun of him, he said with a smile, "Give me battle, O Supreme Lord." So you see, in this world, actually complete non-violence is almost non-existent. Violence is necessary in the material world to some degree. So there cannot be any, for example, once Srila Prabhupada he came across a Buddhist monk who was also walking with some of his lady disciples. And looking at this, Prabhupada, either he asked him, or there was a conversation, and Prabhupada asked him that, what about this violence? What is your understanding? And Of course, the Buddhist monk said that yes, we have to be completely non-violent. We are not supposed to kill any sort of living entities. That's what they stand for. And then Prabhupada said, okay, what if a person comes and catches the hand of one of your lady disciples? What will you do? And all the lady disciples were looking at the Buddhist monk. What is this fellow going to say? Because if he says, I'm not going to do anything, I'm going to be non-violent, then they're going to give up the guru. What kind of Guruji just lets all this happen? And at the same time, if he says, no, I'm going to take action, then that's violence. Isn't it? So how smartly Prabhupada checkmated him. So that goes to show, even when we are walking, there is some amount of violence. We kill some living entities on the street. When we are sneezing or coughing, or that time also we kill some germs or bacteria. In this way, when we light fire, some germs die, some living entities die. Sometimes in the temple we also have to kill roaches, isn't it? Or rats. That is best. But sometimes we also kill them, isn't it? For the sake of cleanliness. Quote unquote accident. So in this way, some amount of violence is always required in this world. But if you study the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 16, the divine and demoniac assets, the chapter, and over there, the first Krishna starts the chapter by saying the qualities of a person who is born with divinity, a divine person. What are the qualities? He mentions many, many qualities, out of which one is non-violence. And second, in the 13th chapter, in the 8th to 12th verse, when Krishna is enlisting items of knowledge, he says, Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa kshantir arjavam. That means ahimsa is non-violence. Non-violence is also characteristic of a person who is in knowledge, that he doesn't inflict trouble to other living entities. See, the Krishna is speaking all this just to inspire Arjuna to fight. He's telling non-violence is characteristic of knowledge, item of knowledge, and it is the quality of divine person. But at the end of Bhagavad Gita, what is he inspiring Arjuna to do? To fight, to act violently. So therefore, it's very important to reconcile what is real violence, what is real non-violence. In the 11th chapter, Krishna is telling, when looking at Arjuna's morose face, he's telling Arjuna, Tasma tamuttishta yasho labhasva jitva shatrun bhungshvarajyam samriddham. That means he's saying, get up Arjuna, get up and fight and conquer your enemies and take ownership of the kingdom, like that he's saying. So Krishna is inspiring Arjuna to fight throughout the Bhagavad Gita, and therefore towards the end of Mahabharata you will find how Gandhari, she tells Krishna, it's all your fault, the whole war happened. And she curses Krishna that just like you were instrumental in destroying our clan, similarly I curse that your Yadus will fight amongst themselves and be killed. Of course Krishna is not bound by anyone's curse. But here the point is to show how Krishna was also so-called blamed for the violence. But that violence was necessary. So there is violence which is necessary, there is violence which is unnecessary. Who decides? Guru Sadhu Shastra decide. So that's what I thought of discussing for, to some degree, what is necessary violence and what is unnecessary violence. So understanding that there is violence in the material world which cannot be avoided per se, we also have to understand sadhus by general, and Srila Prabhupada wanted all his disciples to become sadhus, are generally non-violent. Therefore, we hear of a story from the Puranas. Once Narada, he has many kinds of disciples, and one of his disciples was a snake. And that snake, when it became a devotee and started chanting Hare Krishna, all the people would look at the snake and throw stone and take a stick and hit it on the head. So they were actually harassing the snake, poor snake. So I went to Narada next time, and they told Narada Muni, my dear Lord, my dear spiritual master, what should I do? Because I became a devotee, now people are harassing me. What did Narada Muni say? He said, he said, of course, doesn't mean now you bite them. But he said, of course, you can always hiss at them, so that they know that you have the capacity to bite them, but don't bite them. Similarly, for us also it is important that we develop the capacity, not we develop capacity, we can of course show that we are capable of action. But a sadhu never engages in fight. Why? Because in this world, first of all, if we go to 3rd chapter Gita, Krishna says, Kamesha Krodesha Rajoguna Samudbhavaha. Kama and Krodha it's born from passion. And the problem with passion is it's uncontrolled. You can never control passion. Therefore, the Kshatriyas cannot control their own passion and they need Brahmanas above them. So, of course, some Kshatriyas, once they become kings, like King Vena, though he had a board of Brahmanas above him, the passion is so uncontrolled, he even didn't care for their instructions. This is the uncontrolled nature of passion. So similarly, when Dhruva engaged in passion to fight with the Yakshas, what happened? He wanted to just take revenge. But he went on to wipe out the entire race. Then Manu himself had to come and stop him. So therefore, to engage in passion is a very dangerous thing. Actually, it was very surprising to read in the purport of NY verse 1, where Srila Prabhupada says, and I was explaining this to some students in one program, and as I was explaining, I started getting doubts, because I was telling them the best way to control anger, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, is show your anger, redirect your anger towards the non-devotees. Does it mean you go and punch them? Does it mean you can fight with them? Does it mean you can shoot them? No, you cannot do any of these. But then what does Prabhupada mean? Prabhupada uses the examples how Hanuman burned Lanka in that. So if you have to redirect a passion towards non-devotees, you can go and burn their homes. You can, isn't it? You can kill them. So it's very dangerous idea. Yeah. Yeah, so they also have some similar statements. So therefore, we have to very scrutinizingly study the Shastra and understand. Therefore, whenever we study the nature of a sadhu, it says non-violent. So, one thing we can, first of all, if you understand the nature of why do we want to fight? There are two reasons why Hiranyaksh wanted to fight. First thing, because he had a big, capable body. That's actually one of the reasons why he wanted to fight. Why? Krishna says, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshi Arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani maya. That means the living entity is actually placed in a vehicle which is offered by Maya Devi. And the word used is yantra. Yantra means machine. Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani maya. Brahmayan. Yeah. Yantra Rudhani Maya. So yantra means a machine. Actually, the yantra we associate with can easily affect us. So what happens is when actually Indra, as famous as he is for these type of things, Indra actually is understood there was a Brahmana in Bharatvarsha who was performing intense tapasya. Basically, he was practicing devotional service. Every day he would get up in the morning, early in the morning, do his rounds. He would go and pluck flowers, get the fruits for the offering. He would perform yajna in the forest. So Indra got scared and insecure of his position. So what did Indra do? He went to the Brahmana and he said, "My dear Brahmana, I have an important meeting to attend to. So can you please hold on to this sword, his sword, Indra's sword." And he went away. That's all he had to do. You will understand the importance of yantra now. So now, that sadhu, initially he would get up and he would offer prayers and he would perform yajna. And before that yajna, he has to collect his bhoga. So now to collect the bhoga, he would have to pluck flowers and collect fruits. He would have to cut the fruits, make it suitable for offering. So initially what he used to do with hand, initially he started using the sword. It's just because he had it with him. So he would get up in the morning, offer prayers, and always the sword is with him. And to pluck flowers, which he would do with hand, he started using the sword to cut the flowers off from the tree. And then he would get the fruits using the sword. And he would cut it using the sword. He would peel it using the sword. And whatever yajna, he would put the offering oblations into the yajna using the sword. So gradually he became little more violent. He started cutting off the branch itself, cutting the tree itself. If anyone made him lose his punctuality. If someone came in his way, he would cut him also, gradually. And like this, he lost all his past credits. And Indra came later on, took his sword back and went away. Isn't it smart? So this is the power of yantra. Now, similarly, just like the Brahmana, poor fellow, he fell down because of just keeping one yantra of sword with him. Today we also have a very good yantra with all of us have all the time, which is a cellular phone, isn't it? A mobile phone. That is a powerful yantra. It actually has influence on the mind. Because the yantra which we keep close to us, that always has influence. Sometimes I have seen, sometimes I call one Prabhu and I'm in front of the kitchen, our kitchen, and he's in the Balram hall. And we get to know, we are just so close by, and we still continue talking on the phone. That's the influence of yantra, isn't it? In those days, people would, if there was no cell phone, people were ready to walk upstairs and call the person. But today we just call. And if he doesn't pick up, we say, Prabhu, he's not available. Isn't it? Why power of yantra? Correct, no? You can just call him on WhatsApp and he doesn't pick up WhatsApp, he's not available. So you become dependent upon technology. That's the influence of yantra. So you are losing freedom or gaining freedom? How many of you say you're losing freedom? Yeah, actually, you're actually losing freedom. Did the Brahmana lose freedom or gain freedom? Now he thinks he can easily cut it. Before he had to struggle, to pluck the flowers. Now he can easily cut off the flowers. So is he losing freedom or gaining freedom? How many of you say gaining freedom? Yeah, gaining? No, losing. Actually he's losing. It seems that he is gaining freedom, but actually he's losing freedom. Therefore, sadhus means we have one yantra always around our neck. This is a yantra we should always have. Mobile phones during chanting time should be kept aside. Technology should be kept aside. Not required all the time with us. Because what we keep close to ourselves affects us very subtly, that we cannot even see it affect us. But how do we know it's affecting us? So it's result on us, our consciousness. How it makes us dependent upon it. So if we sometimes you're going in the train, you don't have anything planned to do. If you don't have anything, either you look at mobile phone, or you look at other people, how they are indulging in sense gratification. And if you are neophyte devotees, their indulgence in sense gratification will also inspire us to indulge in sense gratification. So therefore, if we have the right yantra, it can influence us properly. So therefore, all the sadhus always used to carry beads with them, generally. So any Sadhu Goswamis you see, usually they are like this. You have seen, no? Like there's a photo of Rup Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they are like this. 6 Goswami, they are like this. See the Acharya's photos, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jagannath Das Babaji, they all have beads with them. That is the yantra. So our Hiranyaksha had his yantra of a very powerful body. So that powerful body actually intoxicated his mind with pride. So much so that he was actually the brother of Hiranyakashipu, and they were about to rule the entire universe. See, proud means it's very difficult to take a low position. But he was even ready to do that. Why? Because he was ready to fight. Now his body is actually itching for a fight. So that is one reason why Hiranyaksha wanted to fight. Another reason why Hiranyaksha wanted to fight was because he was not a Goswami. So when we read Nectar of Instruction, verse 1, we understand that Vacho Vegam, Manasakrodha Vegam, Jivva Vegam, Udrapasta Vegam, Etan Veganyo Vishaheta Dhiraha. Dhiraha means a person who is stable in consciousness. Whereas because he could not control the urges, he was not stable in his consciousness. Because of which he actually succumbed to the urge, just to fight. Prahlad Maharaj says, Yan maitunadi gramedi sukkam mitucham, kanduti vankarayoriva dukka dukkam, tripyanti neha kripana bahu dukka bhaja, kanduti van manasijam, vishaheta dhiraha. People of stable consciousness understand that the urges born of the body, arising in the body are actually born of the mind. So they don't pay heed to it. But people who are not dhiraha, for them, because the consciousness itself is not supporting them, then they want to fulfill the urges. And the what happens if they want to fulfill the urges? They will use logical statements. They'll use Shastric evidence to get what they want. Isn't it? That's the problem. So therefore, one thing we have to understand is the urge of the body is coming, or it's actually rising from the platform of the mind. Actually, Prahlad Maharaj is saying the sex desire is actually born of the mind. What to talk about all the other urges, the urge to fight. It's all lesser than sex desire. The whole world is rotating because of, as one brahmachari said, because of sex desire. If there was no sex desire, there would be no earth, basically. So if that exists, if sex desire is so powerful and that itself is born of the mind, all the other urges is born of the mind. And how do we understand? Sometimes we have had a complete meal, complete lunch, up to the throat. Then someone brings son papdi and offers. Immediately one takes. That hunger is, how many of you can understand that this hunger is a mental hunger? You understand? This is actually a mental hunger. This is not the hunger of the stomach. So there are different kinds of hunger, there are different kinds of thirst. You can completely fulfill your thirst with water, but sometimes you feel the need for soda also. Though it's karmi. It's from outside. So therefore we understand one thing, that many of these things are born from the platform of mind, and to the degree we fulfill them, it becomes a need. Again, we become dependent upon them. So therefore, since we should not follow the Hiranyaksha example of becoming a Godas. Godas means servant of the senses. Goswami means master of the senses. We say we are dāsa no dāsa, but not of senses, of Krishna and his devotees. Of senses, we always have to be the master, Goswami, and not Godas. So, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna how dhyayato vishan pumsha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha. From wrong contemplation, actually contemplation leads to attachment. Contemplation on what? Sense object. Leads to attachment to what? That's particular sense object. And when you develop attachment, you want to enjoy it. And if someone says, no Prabhu, don't do it, you're ready to hold his collar and give him a slap. That's called anger. Why? Krodhat, then it sangat sanjayate kamaha. Kamat krodhat bijayate, krodhat bhavati sammohaha. Then delusion arises. Then you don't know what is right, what is wrong. Sammohat smriti vibramaha. Then all what you have heard in the class, everything is gone down the drain. Vaishnava offense, many things we talk about, isn't it? That is only during the class. After class, we are ready to do whatever we want because we are not getting what we want. The intense attachment, concentrated attachment, which has now led to delusion and smriti vibramaha. Then smriti bhramshat buddhinashat pranashati. Finally, it leads to loss and spoilage of intelligence, and that is a level where people even use Prabhupada quotes to prove what they want, to prove sense gratification. If anyone, actually, I was thinking about this, actually, using Prabhupada statements, you can actually prove anything you want, isn't it? Anything you can say, Prabhupada said in this particular letter, such and Prabhupada said in that morning walk, such and such. Prabhupada actually told one fellow you can do push-ups, and you do gym. So like this, you can prove any damn thing using Prabhupada statements. But how do you know if it's right or wrong? I mean, whether you should do it or not? You can easily ask one simple question to yourself. Am I doing this to promote my sense gratification or to go closer to Krishna? That actually will answer your question. Why? Because Prabhupada time and again hits on sense gratification. So, therefore we can easily understand that what Prabhupada wanted to tell us is not, sometimes he encourages devotees to do certain things because for them doing that is piety. For us doing that is impiety. Like if he says, if he tells one of his disciples, you should not have this live-in relationship, get married. So brahmachari will say, oh, Prabhupada said get married. And now why am I practicing brahmacharya? So let me get married, So for that boy to get married was piety. For the brahmachari to get down from ashram and get married is impiety. Getting inspired from this example alone. Otherwise it's fine moving to the next ashram. For the sake of example I'm saying. So therefore we can understand one thing, that when we are overtaken by passion and results in anger. Prabhupada explains, we studied in Jai Vijay. Prabhupada gives the sequence. First of all, the anger arises in the mind. Then it comes on the face. That means the eyebrows become joint, and the teeth, they actually bite against one another. And he says the nostrils flare up. If that is not sufficient, then the hands get into action. You're ready to catch him by the collar. And the feet also takes action. That's the last step. When you're ready to kick him and punch him and pound him. Isn't it? So then one understands, hey, he's a devotee. Then he remembers all the statements. See, that is the problem with urge. Actually, when urge arises to a certain degree, it leads to delusion as smriti vibhramaha. So therefore, urge means nip it at the bud. Don't allow it to grow. Otherwise, it can become very dangerous. So therefore, one has to practice non-violence generally. If we think, okay, killing is okay, harming is okay, to speak non-violently is okay. No, it's to speak violently is okay. No, it's not okay. Because anything which is associated with passion, it is very difficult to control it. And Prabhupada says also, for devotees, if someone insults us, then what happens is we should tolerate. We want to defend our false ego, but we should not defend false ego. When Prabhupada says engage anger against non-devotees, he's actually saying if someone actually threatens the community, threatens the temple, then one can take a reasonable action. Not that you go and hit him. Anger has to be vented out, but in a gentlemanly way. Not like what Hiranyakashipu is doing. Hiranyaksha is doing. In purport, Prabhupada writes, demoniac person always challenges others and tries to occupy others' property by force. In the name of devotees, we can also do that. If we are in a managerial position, someone doesn't listen to us, how do we deal with him? With respect? We should understand if he is not respecting me, that's my problem. No, basically, this is Krishna's test to help me tolerate. Therefore, Krishna also tells Arjuna, tolerate any insults, personal. So anger, we can only give a way to anger if it's not towards us, one. Second, how that way to anger should be given is in a gentlemanly way. Not by engaging in violent actions. Actually, many times, many saffron brahmacharis, actually this became a viral news in India. That some brahmacharis from out of India, foreign brahmacharis, they were doing book distribution and some police stopped them. And these brahmacharis immediately caught hold of the police and started punching them. In India, saffron is of the highest respect. And if a saffron devotee does like this, it's very shameful, especially for Hare Krishna. And what was the news headlines? Hare Krishna, Hare Ram turns violent. So basically anyone who chants Hare Krishna, they feel that, oh, these fellows are violent. So therefore we also have to understand we don't represent just ourselves, we represent the entire society. So we cannot behave the way we want. So we cannot, as sadhus, we should only practice non-violence. But at the same time, we should know how to defend ourselves using violence. Violence is used just to defend, not to offend. Like when the famous last year Bangladesh attacks happened on ISKCON devotees. So many of the devotees were on one side saying that we also should be trained in using ammunition to fight back, which is not very right. So later on, some senior devotees actually said that yes, ISKCON temples, we don't need to learn to use ammunition. Rather, we can ourselves be, trained with, our temples can have security guards. We can be trained in some, say martial arts or something just to defend. We can defend and go away, but we should never offend as sadhus. Why? Because people are expert in catching only one side of the story and it will bring a bad name to ISKCON. So, therefore, this is a big danger of engaging in passion. And that engaging in passion starts with something small. The 4 principles of freedom. Anyone knows what is it? The 4 principles of freedom? That's not necessarily a principle of freedom. It's no meat eating is actually mercy. Mercy is the principle of freedom.
Oh, okay. So there's like dharma versus adharma, mercy. I'm just getting caught on sensitive.
Yeah, sorry?
Discipline, tapa.
Austerities, yeah.
Yeah, tapa, austerity. Saucham
Yeah, cleanliness.
and
Satyam, truthfulness, yeah. Thank you. So therefore, even when we take the 4 regulative principles of freedom, mercy actually means even against the subtle principle of violence. So no meat eating means the principle is violence. Subtle principle of violence is even through speech, even in behavior, like what JVJ did. JVJ didn't hit Kumaras, but they just didn't give an expression of reception, of welcoming reception. So that itself was very offensive. So as Vaishnavas, we have to be trained in all these aspects. So we start training ourselves at a very small scale, day-to-day basis. How do we deal with devotees? You engage in a passionate affair, it's going to grow. Tomorrow even some senior devotee comes, he says, I don't care for him. We can say like that also. Why? Because we have given in to passion before. But you should not give in to passion, rather we should tolerate passion, tolerate the urges. That which cannot be cured has to be endured. You cannot, some things if you don't have the cure right now, you have to just tolerate it. But giving into passion means it expands into wildfire. It only causes damage. Therefore, we see even in, I think towards the end, even when you see the scriptures, when Durvasa Muni actually came to the kingdom of King Ambarish, and that time he was supposed to be fed because he's the guest of honor. And Ambarish Maharaj thought, I've fasted for 1 year and this is the muhurta when I'm supposed to break the fast, just so that the whole kingdom will get benefited. So he asked his superiors what to do, and superior said, King Ambarish, you just take some charnamrit, few drops of charnamrit. And that itself is actually like breaking the fast, at the same time not breaking the fast. Now Durvasa Muni, seeing this, got offended. And what did he do? He took out a hair and brought out a demon to kill Ambarish. Now Ambarish is a king of the world at this time. If he wanted, he could have called all the soldiers, the entire army, and made sure the demon is killed and taken care of Durvasa also if he wanted. But what did Ambarish do? Immediately he fell down on his knees. With his folded palms, he started praying to the Supreme Lord. If you want to kill me, please go ahead. If you want to save me, please protect me, as you wish. This is the nature of a sadhu. That's why we have to be non-violent in general. Whereas, similarly, Arjuna, Prabhupada says in one of the purports, Arjuna didn't want to fight the war because of his soft-heartedness. First chapter he says. Yeah. Because he saw that these are also living entities, parts and parts of Krishna. How can it simply go killing them just for the want of a kingdom? He said this. Because he is soft-hearted. Why? Because Vaishnavas are paradukka dukki, parasukha sukhi. They cannot see the misery of others. If they see misery, they become miserable. If they see others are happy, they're happy. It's the nature of a Vaishnava. So, generally the Vaishnavas, they don't become violent. But sometimes, if we give in to passion in terms of the wrong type of yantra we associate with, the yantra is what we discussed, say, mobile phone, external, but also the body. If we do too much if we are pumping up the body with passion in terms of too much of gym, too much of focusing on the body, decorating the body, and even taking too much, say, protein powder and ashwagandha and this thing. If required, one can take for service, but I'm talking about the extreme cases. So then it's very bad, because the body becomes passionate and the urges become strong. It is said even the salt and sugar give strength to senses. So if one likes too many delicacies, then it's also a danger, because the itch becomes very intolerable. Then one has to engage. Then one goes like Hiranyaksh, going temple to temple, creating trouble for all the living entities. Isn't it? So better we don't become like Hiranyaksh. Rather we learn to control and we become like the 6 Goswamis. Always with bead bag and chant Hare Krishna. Isn't it? So whenever violence is approved in the Shastra, it is for warriors. Sadhus never engage in war. Arjuna was a warrior, Kshatriya. He's given that position. Say King Prataparudra attacked a neighboring kingdom. He's a king. He's given that position. Are you given that position? We have to ask ourselves to, go and fight. Generally, it's not recommended. Because once you fight, you become passionate. You get flared up. Then again you want to engage it. And like that we diminish our piety account. So I'll just stop there and if there are any questions. The mic.
What about warriors who are sadhu?
Can you give example?
Warrior, but you also
Oh, you are talking about saintly warriors. Yeah, I'm just talking about they may be saintly or not. I'm talking about devotees itself. But when they are given the position of being a warrior, then they are allowed to fight. Can you give the mic to Natamal Prabhu?
And in our Harinam we see an example like, someone was getting a little too passionate and then got into a big fight and it created a big problem. And like I was thinking the other day, if some of these people that come and disturb us, which happens every year, usually some people, sometimes more than that, but when people come to disturb us, if we actually get like really upset and fight with them, maybe it solves the problem for that day. But then, like there was that one guy that punching David Rishi in the nose. Like he got angry at us. I don't know exactly what we did. We kicked him out of here or something like that. And he got so angry that he was just waiting, and then he waited for like the opportune moment to follow. So that's also when you make someone else angry at you, you're kind of just waiting for a reaction. Hiranyaksha was killed by Vishnu, and then it made Hiranyakashipu even more angry. And I don't think maybe it was because of that, but he killed all the Brahmins, and he got really upset with the whole situation. So, for us, we have to be very, just more like that snake. Like Ram Royal, sometimes if someone's doing something, he'll just yell into the mic really loud.
Yeah.
He'll get up and be like, "What are you doing?" Try to make them take a step back and think twice or something like that. Or now we've got Alex and Nate. They just go right up to the person and look them in the face. And I don't know if hands start swinging though, it'll be really bad. Especially if they see our image, we're supposed to be like monks. People don't really know much about what Krishna consciousness is, but if they see that, they'll get a really bad impression.
That's very true. Actually, many people surrounding the Harinam crew, probably they're not even listening to the Hare Krishna mantras we're chanting throughout. And when that thing happens, when someone is actually attacking us, how we respond is what people actually see. If we respond with, with a fist, and it just, they may congratulate us, or they may say, I would have done the same thing. But they will lose respect that we are monks. And I have seen in my observation that fights which actually went to a next level, it was always because we responded back with passion. Yeah.
They kept responding and kept pushing and kept escalating the fight rather than... Like they say, the first thing in martial arts that you learn is you should never fight.
Yeah.
That's the first the thing you learn. Okay, here's how to fight. Don't fight.
Yeah. Actually, the people who are non-violent, they are the best people for violence, because they're generally tending towards non-violence. So Arjuna wanted non-violence, so he's good for violence. But people who are begging and they are ready to do anything for violence, they are the worst fellows for violence.
Can we maybe like to make a comment? This is a related topic. Like when the guru gets angry at the disciple, even Prabhupada, many times seems like he's angry, but such sadhus are so great, they're definitely over mundane anger. So what's the nature of this anger? Are they just playing a part? They're I'm not really angry, but if I really put it out, the energy out there, then the disciple's going to have a much bigger impression and they're going to actually stop doing it? Or That's what I'm kind of thinking, but not really sure.
Yeah, that is true. For pure devotees, they're not subdued by anger. But whereas, so when they employ anger, they use it just to show that the guru, he is displeased. So disciples feel something. Like for a brahmana, you just have to say, if, the guru says, I didn't like this very much. Brahmana is very attentive. He understands that, okay, guru was displeased, because he only needs a hint. So it is said for Kshatriyas, you have to actually display, you have to put a law, policy. Like if you do like this, Prabhu, you will get, if you come late for Mangalarti, you are supposed to write some punishment, some Mahamantras you are supposed to write. So Kshatriyas learn by punishment. Vaishyas learn if you find them. Prabhu, you come late for Mangalarti, $10 cut. $10 cut, or you have to give $10, something like that, fining. Shudras need hitting, generally. Of course, American laws are a little different, but generally, they need some hitting. Or very external display of anger is required for the Shudras. So it depends on us, how fine do we want to be with our consciousness. If Guru has to employ anger to show the disciple, that means the disciple is like a stone. He's not able to understand his spiritual master. Like that. But generally, one thing I've seen is transcendental anger versus mundane anger. Mundane anger goes out of bounds, whereas transcendental anger, like Guru is angry, next moment he's very appreciative. Very controlled, transcendental anger. Krodha. Yeah. Like that.
He has anger under control, even though he can use it, but it's not like an uncontrollable urge, like you said. If people normally keep milking the urge, then it becomes uncontrollable.
One thing I've seen, like sometimes, like my brother, friends, and myself, we grew up watching WWE. So WWE, I don't remember the full form, but the wrestling thing. So when we would watch this, we would try to enact it on the finishing moves and all that on one another. So it started with something. What started with on a fun note, ended up we are pulling each other's T-shirt and literally punching each other, and at the end of the day, there's bitterness amongst people. So it started with some passionate acts on the platform of fun, but resulted in bitterness. That is mundane, completely mundane. Therefore, in little passion, you give space for little passion. Passion is like flood, just wants to occupy everything.
Well, then there's also, isn't there kind of like the prescription, like amongst like Vaishnav sports, like wrestling is like been approved, and my understanding is like kind of like young boys, they have a lot of this passion and they need to get it out somehow. So sometimes if you can do it in a healthy way, they can get it out, and then it's like they become stronger and more controlled because of that.
Yeah, that is true. So some sports which Prabhupada has allowed, like wrestling, these are all fun it's fine for the boys, fine and fun, They have wrestling, there are many other things also they learn, like in Mayapur Gurukul, they have so many activities and it's required for them. At the same time, even on a similar note, if we cannot, when Prabhupada says you have to redirect your anger towards the non-devotees, actually we are not supposed to fight with them. What we are supposed to do is, actually the anger can become a good motivation for us to deal with them like a gentleman. Finally, the dealing should only be sweet, especially for sadhu, especially if you're in saffron shaven-headed. Otherwise, we are going to be a very bad image. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.